Today, I feel the need to, or the desire to talk about romantic relationships. Um, Part of that is because my boyfriend and I just celebrated, or we're about to celebrate actually, our 7th anniversary this weekend. Um, and just because it seems like in conversations I'm having with people lately, the topic is coming up a lot. And so I was thinking about the relationship between emotional healing and the inner child specifically, and our romantic relationships. So I thought I would just talk a bit about that in this video today. So I want to start by saying that our relationship style, basically the type of relationship we have with our parents as children, becomes the relationship we have with ourselves, with our own inner child, with our own multiple parts of ourselves. And that also then becomes the type of relationship we have in our romantic partnerships and in our friendships, but mainly in our more acutely felt in our romantic relationships. So these relationship styles can be painful ones. I am an example, an anxious attachment style. I always have been. It's gotten much, much better over the years, but there's still aspects of that that come up and out. I know they're not painful anymore because I know what to do when that happens. But it was for many, many years extremely painful. So if you don't know what I mean by anxious attachment, they're two typical attachment styles that come together like magnets, which is anxious attachment and avoidant attachment. So one is the needy one, and I hate that word because it's pejorative. It's a way of saying like, oh, you're too needy, or you need too much love or affection, and that's absolutely ridiculous because we all need, we're all needy. We all need love, closeness, connection, affection. And we're all going to need that in slightly different ways. There's something called the 5 languages of love. But what matters is that we all need that. It's the most basic human need. In fact, we're social creatures. We need closeness. And anyway, but an anxious attachment style person, this need is shown and comes forth and it's kind of dominant. Whereas in an avoidant attachment style person, they still have that need, but it's suppressed. It's not so much that it's suppressed, but there's another need that takes precedence, which is the need to be safe from the anxious attachment style person, which can be seen as engulfing them, or it feels like too much is required of them. They can't absorb that much neediness from the other person. So their way of dealing with that that safety is to then retreat, whereas the other person's kind of pushing forward. So you get this thing happening, and that's very, very painful for both people, for both sides. But some would argue more for the anxious attachment. But I don't agree with that. I think the avoidant attachment style is very, very painful as well because that part of themselves that needs the closeness is even more suppressed and not getting its needs met. Anyway, so if you notice that you're struggling in your romantic life, that this is a pattern that comes up again and again, as it did in my romantic life, as soon as I started dating as a teenager, up until it started getting much better in this current relationship that I'm in. And I attribute that to the intense inner child healing work that I did. I did it for other reasons. I did it because of my anxiety at work, but it had a positive spillover effect in my romantic relationships as well. Anyway, if you notice you have this struggle, then There's good news and there's bad news. The bad news is that it's not the person it's not about like finding the right person, because it's going to keep coming up again and again if nothing is done to change it. The good news is it is absolutely possible to alleviate and improve this aspect of ourselves. And the way of doing that is by turning our attention for a while, for a good chunk of time, to that inner relationship. That relationship can be changed, and it can be healed, it can be improved. And when that happens, then that has an automatic spillover into our outer relationships, including the romantic ones. How do you do this? If you think about it, it seems very abstract, like how do you have a relationship, how do you change your relationship style with your own self? You're one person. But that's why inner child exercises are very helpful. Basically, you want to spend some time having a relationship with yourself, and one that is as you would like your perfect romantic relationship to be with a person. So you can like actually think about, what do I want that to feel like? What do I want it to be like? And that's the kind of person you would like to. So how you would like that person to be to you, that's how you want to be towards your own inner child. So things probably, I'm going to guess, for a lot of people, it's going to be things like present, committed to the relationship, enthusiastic about the relationship, has eyes only for me, wants to spend a lot of their time with me. When they're spending time with me, they're fully present in the activity. Is really great at listening to me, supporting me, is emotionally mature, so that they can be there for me when I'm not, when I need their help. Because another thing about relationships, we don't need and want somebody who's perfect and where everything's going to be perfect all the time. So they're, what we actually want, whether we realize this or not, is somebody that we can be our full selves with, and that includes our pain, our vulnerability, our bad days, our breakdowns, our meltdowns, and somebody who can sit there and be there with us through that, who isn't going to freak out and step away, or be themselves triggered. Like, we want somebody who's like a solid rock for us. And we can learn to be that solid rock for ourselves, for our own inner child. And it starts with that willingness to be with ourselves, in other words, with that child, when they are in these painful emotional states. So pay attention when you're feeling particularly upset, you're triggered in some way, you're anxious, you're scared, you're angry, you feel overwhelmed, you feel stressed, you feel like hiding, you feel like running away, whatever it might be. Pay attention to those moments, because that's exactly the perfect opportunity to be with that child. And the idea is not to do what we normally try to do, which is like rush in there and fix it. So you don't want to tell that child, hey, you've got to feel better. Or we do this with children, like we try to distract them. It's well-intentioned, but we try to distract them. We do anything we can to, as quickly as possible, get them to stop crying or feeling upset, because it's uncomfortable. We don't have any tolerance for that feeling. So it's about developing the tolerance for that feeling, those painful, uncomfortable states, and being that solid rock that can hold that child while it's feeling that way. This is called holding space. And it's as difficult as it is a simple concept. At first, it can be difficult, but it's something that is practiced and practiced again and again and again. And luckily, life gives us plenty of opportunities to do this. In fact, if you're having tons of struggles emotionally in your life, it means that it's precisely because this process is trying, your soul, so to speak, is trying to get you to do this. It's like giving you these opportunities, like saying, like, please, I need, this child needs your attention now. It needs your comforting, loving, warm arms. It needs your presence, your support. And until you're able to do that, these struggles are going to just continue to manifest in your life. and they might get worse and worse until finally something needs to happen. You get sick, you have to stay home from work, it'll just keep getting worse and worse until you're basically forced to, and that will be forced to do the healing work. And that can be very painful if you're waiting until it gets so bad that you have to do it. So it's possible to be conscious of all this and start it before it gets even worse. And the thing is, like, I call it inner work, but it's not truly, it shouldn't feel like work, right? We don't want that the partner that we're with, for it to feel like work to them when we've had a bad day and we need a hug. We don't want that to feel like work to them, right? We want them to truly want to comfort us in that moment. So, and that's kind of like the relationship you want to have with your own inner child. When they're upset, you want it to be your natural reaction to want to go in and spend time with it and comfort it and all that good stuff. And this is why the imagination is such a powerful tool in this process, because we do all of this in our mind with our thoughts. And there's really no rules. It's just what feels good. And our imaginations will kick in and will do, we don't have to think about it. It will just start to happen when we go into that state, which is the state that I guide people in my inner child healing sessions. It's kind of similar to hypnosis in a way. It's a very trance-like state where you're fully in your mind's eye and fully in your emotional body. But you can do this by yourself as well. And this innate healing process that I talk about a lot, that's what gets activated in that state. And you just kind of have to let it roll. It will unfold by itself. So just connect with that child that's upset in any way that it happens to take place. So sometimes I'll be on the driveway of the house I grew up in with my inner child. That's somewhere where we meet a lot, and I have no idea why. But it doesn't matter. It's that's just where, maybe because it feels like a neutral space. It's outside. I don't know. A lot of people will be in the bedroom that they grew up in with their inner child. Maybe a specific memory comes up, and then you can work specifically with that memory. I mean, I can go into a lot of detail about this, but the point I'm trying to get to is that the more you do, there's no right or wrong. You're just spending time in a visualization with your inner child, and doing what feels good to do moment by moment. So at the beginning, when they're really upset, it might mean hugging them really tightly. That might then, after a while, you'll notice they're kind of full from that experience. They've released, they've relaxed, and then they want to move on to a different activity, which could be they want to go to sleep and they want you to tuck them into bed and read them a story while they fall asleep, or maybe they want to do something more active, like go outside and cloud watch, or maybe they want to build a blanket fortress in the playroom, or they want there's something called the safe haven, which can be a completely imaginary place, made up, real. It's fantastical as the child imagines it. It could be a real place. It could be the stables at your grandmother's house where you loved hanging out with the horses. So I mean, you can go to that safe haven with your child and hang out with them there. The thing is, each time you do this, what's happening is new neural pathways are being created, and the wounds in our emotional body, which were the wounds of being in an emotionally upset state and not having that solid rock person who could guide you through that feeling and be there with you through it. That's the trauma, so to speak, and that's the wound that we are slowly, with each one of these visualizations, healing until it becomes so healed that you start to see it in your outer reality as well, in the type of people you attract, the type of relationships you have with that people, your own tolerance, your own ability to be someone who can hold space for somebody else. Yeah, life feels tons better. So I think that's everything I wanted to say. I could talk about this for hours. It's my passion, as you can probably tell. I love guiding this process, and so if you want to give it a try, if there's something that you feel there's some like trigger that keeps getting in your way in life, keeps coming up, you're just tired of that struggle, then I really recommend this type of work because it works. So, and I can help you with that if you'd like. So let me know. Have a nice weekend, everybody. See you. Bye.